I was in the 5th grade. It was a normal Friday afternoon. My friends and I went to the video store to rent a movie for us to watch that night. We were looking through the shelves until my friend called us over. He showed us a case called Jimmy Neutron, The Lost Episode. Me and my friends were big Jimmy Neutron fans back then, so we decided to rent that instead of the movie. Later that night, we opened the case. A note fell out of it. It said, "Whatever you do, don't watch this episode. I saw it, and I regret it so much. I don't want that to happen to someone else. Please, don't watch it for your own sake. If you do watch it, you will never be able to sleep again." My friends and I thought that this note was only written to make the episode seem scary before we watch it. Maybe it was a Halloween-themed episode. The note made us want to watch the episode even more. My friends and I disobeyed the note and put the disc in the player. This was a night that wouldn't be forgotten. Usually, DVDs have advertisements and commercials before the movie played, but oddly, this one didn't. The screen went black for about 15 seconds until the opening came on. We were confused because usually there were options to choose before the movie began, such as play, scene select, and extras. We just decided to go with it. The opening was very odd. It wasn't animated like it was supposed to be. It was a mix of cartoon and CGI. The theme song was playing backwards. We thought it had the same purpose as the note. The title said, "Jimmy's Fault." We thought it was an odd title. It didn't have the normal background with the Neutron. Instead, it was pitch black. The show began with Jimmy at school, showing yet another invention for show and tell. It was a time machine. He was demonstrating its use. He asked if anyone wanted to try it out. Jimmy's best friend, Carl Weezer, raises his hand. Carl steps into the time machine, and Jimmy gives him instructions on how to function it. The time machine begins to sputter, and thunderbolts go flying everywhere. Instead of sending Carl back in time, the time machine explodes. Carl's blood burst all over the screen. It was hard to see everything, but I heard someone who sounds like Cindy screaming and saying that Carl's brain and other body parts were on the floor. The screen wiped off the blood and zoomed in on Carl's brain, guts, and heart. My friend ran to the bathroom to puke. The camera then points towards Jimmy, who has a smile on his face. It looks like Jimmy was planning to kill Carl, and the explosion was no accident. Everyone looks at Jimmy with an angry face. Someone yells at Jimmy and calls him a bitch for killing Carl. They chase him out of the school. Jimmy flies away on his hovercraft, laughing demonically. He looks down at his fellow students and says, "You will pay for this." He then flies away back to his house. When he gets home, Jimmy's parents are on the couch, giving him an angry look. His father then points towards the TV. It seems Carl's death has spread all over the news. The newsman shows a picture of Jimmy and says it was all his fault, but they did not know where he is. Jimmy's mom asks why did he do it, tears all over her face. Jimmy says that Carl was a terrible friend and a loser, and that he deserved to die. His parents then tell him that he is grounded forever. Jimmy tells them that it didn't matter, because he was planning to kill them too. Jimmy walks towards them and kills them with a knife off screen. Jimmy's parents' cries can be heard, followed by blood all over the furniture. The scene now changes to Jimmy in his lab with his robot dog, Goddard. Sheen comes in and confronts Jimmy, with tears dripping from his face. Sheen tells him that Jimmy is a monster and that he is calling the police to arrest him. Jimmy says that Sheen can call the police, but he won't reach the police. Sheen runs towards the nearest telephone and dials 911. Jimmy pulls out a knife and walks slowly towards him, but his dog Goddard is trying to stop him from killing Sheen. Jimmy then stabs Goddard on his back, and Goddard dies. Jimmy kicks dead Goddard's corpse out of his way. This is where me and my friends are almost at the point of crying. This wasn't right. This wasn't Jimmy Neutron. Sheen then finally reaches 911. Before he could even say a word, a knife is seen coming out of his head. Sheen's head is cut open and his brain falls out. The camera stares at Sheen's corpse for about 10 seconds. The next couple of scenes finally made us cry. The screen says 5 hours later. The next few scenes showed all of Jimmy's victims dead. It seems as if Jimmy killed everyone in Retroville. The scene then switches to him walking down the street with blood all over himself. The police finally confront him and arrest him. However, Jimmy pulls out a gun, puts it in his mouth, and kills himself. His blood and body parts splattered all over the place. The screen now says Retroville, population 0. The show was now over, and there were no credits. My friends and I were now bawling like a bunch of crybabies. We wished we had listened to that note. We took the DVD and buried it in the park. After we buried it, I heard a noise. I turned around. My friends were gone. The noise kept growing louder and louder. Above my head I looked. It was Jimmy in his hovercraft. He jumped out. He was hyper-realistic. He looked as though he was real. He stared at me for a solid 30 seconds. Then finally, his mouth moved. He uttered 2 words. Got a blast.